your favorite movies are CIA propaganda.
TV shows that you weren't allowed to see. Scripts were rewritten, scenes were cut, endings were changed, and characters were altered.
They had stamped top secret on the top and the bottom.
Is this the CIA? Why is he everywhere? I literally just watched a video. I watched Joe Bartoluzzi reacting to a video of him talking about CIA secrets. Why is he showing up now everywhere I look?
And the sides, in the margins,
What?
of every single page. And I said, guys, this is not top secret. This is a Hollywood movie. It's
CIA
already
guy.
on video. It's done.
That's what
I'm
he's known
talking
as.
children's animations
John
with
Kirk,
rewritten
who is that his
endings,
name?
comedy films you've never heard of with deleted scenes, superhero franchises built in secretive contracts, and a screenwriter who tried to tell the wrong story and was found dead with both hands missing.
It's not an accident that every Hollywood movie about the CIA is pro-CIA.
This has been running since the 1940s. What started with Walt Disney producing propaganda shorts for the military has now evolved into a formal permanent operation, one that now reaches into the biggest franchises on the planet, and it hasn't stopped expanding.
I ain't gonna lie, the real question is it still happening today? Like, maybe at the smallest level, but I don't know, I feel like it would be too hard to keep it quiet nowadays. I think back then when social media wasn't a thing, and I mean it was still a thing but it wasn't as rampant, you know, I feel like back then you could really keep things under wraps like that, especially because movies aren't just some like one person writes and then like you have a few actors. No, this is entire teams, entire sets. How do you keep all of that quiet? I think it's much harder to do it today to like these much bigger productions. I don't think it's possible for today.
From there, when John Kiriakou, a CEI whistleblower who went to prison for exposing the torture program, was asked on the Diary of a CEO how the agency would
anything?
hypothetically design an influence campaign,
Maybe you just have
this
retarded.
was his answer.
You would have to have a goal.
This thing has the funniest interviews though, because it'll be like the most fucked. Yeah, he was talking about in one of the interviews. He was like, they were like, have you ever been assassinated before? He's like, oh yeah, on 2 attempts, I survived both of them. On one of the attempts, my neighbor John, he got killed, and on the second attempt, and he'll just fly right by the fact that he got his neighbor killed because a nigga was trying to kill him. This thing is hilarious, but like hilarious in a psychopathic way, bro.
That would be specific enough that you could actually track
The video's ready to
progress
slow it down.
to.
Oh my God,
It
like
has
the
to
TikTok
be
edits.
a message.
That's just hilarious,
You've
bro.
got to be able to get a specific,
chicken dinner.
well-honed message out there, and the message can be
Like, it's not funny, but it's just the way that he like talked about it so normally. It's hilarious. There was that one time though. That's oh, that's hilarious, bro. That's actually
It could
fucking
be,
hilarious.
you know, love the CIA. We're
CIA
the
too
good
talked
guys.
about
It could
stuff
be
that different
support
top
the
secret section of
overthrow
US
of the
government.
Iranian government.
Fair.
It could be,
I can
you
imagine
know,
that.
any criticism of Benjamin Netanyahu is anti-Semitism. It could be anything you want it to be. You just have to make sure that it's repeated enough.
He mentions a couple of things there that are highly relevant right now. Take Argo, an Oscar-winning film that almost everyone has heard of. The plot
I've
follows a
never watched
CIA
Argo, I ain't
officer
gonna
who
lie.
poses as a Hollywood
I've heard of it.
producer to smuggle 6 American diplomats out of Iran, all during the 1979 hostage crisis. As you can imagine, the CIA is unambiguously the hero. There's barely a single mention of the CIA's
I'm not gonna lie
overthrow-
though, you're a bot if you don't think this happens. Like if you think this is all like conspiracy, the America controls puppeted presidents. If you don't think they're doing the bare minimum of making sure that certain things and certain agendas, bro, you know what our government does. Like this is the bare minimum of screening scripts before they go out to the movies. It's unfortunate, but it's the reality of the world we live in, bro.
of Iran's democratically elected government, or the installing of a dictator who ruled with a secret police force trained by the CIA. And given the current conflict in Iran, you could reasonably argue that the public's understanding of who Iran is and how we got there was influenced in part by films exactly like this.
Fair.
During filming, Affleck visited CIA headquarters multiple times.
Niggas also don't understand like how powerful film media, or like just media in general is. Not just live and like popular TV shows, but also like movies with messages are very powerful.
Saturn round his conference room.
No,
and even
chill.
emailed the agency
Let him free
promising
him.
to do the agency
Saw a conversation the other day with Chandler about the boys and violence and media and shit. Yeah, facts. Like that, okay. But that's also why I say that it's much harder to do it today. Because I don't think everyone would be silent about them trying to silence them, you know? Like I feel like it's much harder to do it today. I think that's why shows like The Boys exist. Now, to be fair, the administration that we have right now isn't the hardest to make fun of. Like, you can low-key do that and get away with it. But, like, I don't think it's as easy as it was back then to censor, you know, these type of things.
Do the agency proud. The CIA
Really
had actually
it's
been promoting the Argo
movies and
operation
CIA
as a
propaganda.
suggested movie plot on their own website years before the film was made, and even thanked Affleck publicly on Twitter for the film. Affleck said this when interviewed as part of the press tour.
Are there many actors in Hollywood who also moonlight as agents, do you think?
I think there are probably quite a few, yes. I think probably Hollywood is full of CIA agents, and we just don't know it.
But Argo's only the surface, and you'll be shocked about where exactly the strategy operates in Hollywood,
Jesus
the films
Christ.
it touches,
My
and how
nigga.
smart it
Animal fucking Farm. Wait, isn't there a book? The Animal Farm? There's another book about like, isn't it like communism of animals or some shit? I feel like this makes sense though. I feel like the first thing you're taught in terms of maybe politics in general, but like if you're able to control information and control the media, then you're able to control the people. I can see that for Iron Man. Captain Marvel, I don't remember a second of Captain Marvel. They chose the wrong movie to spread their misinformation because I do not remember a second of that fucking show. Like, is this a comedy with
Where exactly?
Ben Stiller? Meet the Parents? I've never heard of this.
strategy operates in Hollywood.
Why
the
did it get
films
deleted? Don't worry about
touches,
it.
And how smart
Don't worry
it
about it.
truly is. Take the original script for The Hulk.
Meet the
canon
Pop.
storyline as per
Hulk?
the comic involved Bruce Banner being transformed after a US military program gone wrong. It also included dialogue referencing Operation Ranch Hand, a real program that sprayed roughly 20 million gallons of chemical herbicides, including Agent Orange over Southeast Asia, poisoning a possible 4 million people. Both details were removed purposefully by CIA advisors.
What?
This is according to leaked files seen by The Conversation. They then changed the origin story to a lab experiment gone wrong instead because they couldn't risk anti-government sentiment in a franchise of this size. In the Transformers films, a Pentagon liaison inserted specific dialogue instead of removing it. In one scene just after American troops had been attacked by a deception robot, he added the line "Bring him home."
Hey,
to
off topic, but the Transformer movies are so fucking amazing. Like, they're not even the greatest quality. They are just like, they're one of a kind in their time, and I fucking love them for that. Michael Bay, you're a genius, dude. You're a genius.
Just after
Kid Me
American
love you.
troops had been attacked by a deception
CGI
robot,
goes
he
hard
added the
on
line "Bring
me,
him
and the
home" to
not
me.
even just the CGI, the sound effects that go with the Autocons and the Decepticons. Oh my god, they were cooking in the studio. Like, there's not much else. Oh my god, amazing.
Force US military values.
Agent Orange
Numerous
so fucked up.
superhero films, including practically the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe, which is the single biggest franchise in history, were all built on this from the ground up. Captain Marvel
Holy
was
lineup.
granted full Air Force support. The Air Force was advertising the film on social media before Marvel had even started marketing it. Captain Marvel and Black Panther were both used directly in recruitment campaigns. The
What?
result was a documented spike in female applicants to the Air Force Academy.
Wow.
They literally called it the Captain Marvel effect. On Iron Man, which was
Okay,
massively
that's
supported by
not
the
that crazy. I guess if you also think about it, they can. It's like when Haikyuu was released in Japan, there was a major spike in high schoolers who wanted to play volleyball. Like, you can get a positive effect. It's not always going to be something negative. Like, that is actually really cool. That's fire as shit.
Pentagon with $1 billion worth of equipment, there were literally fights on set
Most of the
between
time
the
it's negative.
directors and the agency. A Pentagon liaison, Phil Strub,
And,
objected to a
and they're gonna show us the positives. They're gonna make sure we know what the positives were. The negatives, we're not gonna find out about that until a YouTuber named Moon tells us about it. The positives though, they gonna let us know, bro.
line in which a military character says, "People would kill themselves for the opportunities I have." The director John pushed back, and soon they were standing on the flight lines at Edwards Air Force
that
Base
Peggy?
with 200
Is that
crew
his name?
watching. They eventually settled on they'd walk over hot coals, but even then that didn't make the final cut. But a much weirder example is Meet the Parents,
Yeah, that's-
when Ben Stiller's
Meet the
character
Parents is
walks into
insane.
Robert De Niro's workplace. In the original script, he finds CIA torture manuals. That was rewritten. Now he finds photos of De Niro meeting Bill Clinton. I am
What? Okay, I get it. Wait, CIA torture manuals? Okay, I get it. That's crazy. But there's literally like, was this? Oh, you know what? This was, if I'm not mistaken, 2007. But this was before the whistleblower outed the government for torturing. They were capturing niggas and torturing people after 9/11. So like, technically, that makes sense.
That was rewritten. Now he finds photos of De Niro meeting Bill Clinton. IMDb credits Chase Brandon as a technical advisor and Milt Bearden as consultant CIA on the film, which you can see here. These examples just cover what we know for certain from a leak of 60,000 pages of documents, which confirmed the CIA has been involved in more than 2,500 productions in total. The Pentagon runs something called the Entertainment Media Office, a formal liaison operation that works directly with Hollywood studios. They support studios financially, offer advice on sensitive topics, and lend them specialist equipment and prime filming locations. In exchange for permissions, the CIA get to read and approve the script before a single frame is...
What? Hold on. Nigga, the Pentagon? What? This feels like it should cause, like, mass panic, because what do you mean the Pentagon is involved in all Hollywood studio movies? What?
Offer advice on sensitive topics and lend them specialist equipment and prime filming locations. In exchange for permissions, the CIA get to read and approve the...
So these big companies get money in tools that they don't have to buy themselves, and in exchange, all they have to do is let the Pentagon or the EMO change their script. The information that they want to be out. That's so... Oh my god. What the fuck? The fact that this exists is like, wow.
Script before a single frame is shot. They also have complete veto power, and directors are obliged to follow their word. One Pentagon minder said on record, "If they don't do what I say, I take my
You're
tools
now
and
woke,
go
congrats."
away." A declassified CIA document released in 2019 all but confirms that, logging dozens of meetings between the CIA's Office of Public Affairs and executives from NBC, Time Warner, Viacom, Fox, Paramount, and CAA. The document covers just 2 years from 2014 to 2016. It includes lunches, development deals on campus filming approvals, and meetings to develop CIA-themed TV shows. The CIA has always claimed it merely answers requests on an as-needed basis. The document shows active outreach. The agency is going to the studios, not the other way around. But you have to stretch back much further to find out when this all began.
But the studios won't say anything because they're getting paid for it.
Because when one of George Orwell's most important works was adapted into a movie, the CIA had the final say over its closing moments. That film is Animal Farm, a classic anti-establishment story about rebelling against power. After Orwell died, the film's rights to Animal Farm were purchased by 2 men, and both were undercover CIA agents. This was in 1954, the height of the Cold War and the Red Scare, when the fear of communism was at its peak. The CIA funded the entire animation. They hired British animators, deliberately avoiding American studios to create distance, and because the agency distrusted Hollywood animators during the Red Scare, and they rewrote the ending. In Orwell's book, the animals look through the farmhouse window and can't tell the pigs from the humans. The line says, quote, "The creatures outside looked from pig to man, and from pig to man, and from pig to man again, but already it was impossible to say which was which." This is the whole point. Revolution replaces one set of oppressors with another. Capitalism and communism are equally corrupt. The CIA couldn't have that message going out, so their version ends with the animals triumphantly overthrowing the pigs in a second revolution. Communism bad, rebellion good, America wins by implication.
That's crazy.
See, watch how they storm the building and how it doesn't imply the same message as the book at all. It's subtle, but the new version reinforces the division between good and bad. It creates a
It's so subtle, but like media, especially movies, the messages are subtle, but it means so much to like someone who's easily impressionable. Or not even easily, like when you're a kid and you're growing up and you watch these movies, not even a kid, like a young adult, and you're watching these movies, you're going to take lessons from these movies that you won't even know you had until later on in life. Changing that small thing, it may seem like this little change in difference to, you know what I'm saying, make it more, I don't know, American or something. But that's a big thing. That's huge. That's huge, bro. That's huge.
That corrupt systems
So it's
can be
not a 1 hour
overthrown
delay.
and replaced with something better, which is a really comforting thought, unless you realize it's exactly the story the CIA tells every time it topples a government. Orwell's ending says the opposite.
Oh my god. You can make so many parallels with so many places where you've injected dummy or doll presidents into different societies. I mean, actually, when you think about it, it's not crazy. When you think about it, it's like, that's what we've been doing. Except I didn't think it went this deep.
That power corrupts regardless of who holds it, and that revolution just replaces one set of oppressors with another. The director Joy Batchelor strongly opposed the change, so the CIA threatened to pull
What is McGraw-Hill?
financing. The intelligence officer E. Howard Hunt, who later became involved in the Watergate scandal, said the film was, quote, carefully tweaked to heighten the anti-communist message. Although it was originally aimed at adults, Animal Farm found its primary audience in school over the US and Europe. By then, the state and media were already deeply intertwined. Governments had correctly identified that the media was the best way to access the minds of the public. Generations of children were shown a CIA-funded film with a CIA rewritten ending, as if this was a faithful adaptation of Orwell. So you may not be surprised to learn that Disney was the testing ground for how effective propaganda could be. While it might be hard to believe today, Disney was actually going broke, and the government offered it a deal. They accepted, and within 2 years, over 90% of Disney's output, mostly propaganda, was government content. Disney characters found their way into all sorts of government materials, including 1,200 military insignia. Walt Disney even personally designed this terrifying Mickey Mouse gas mask.
Now, yes, that is terrifying. At the same time, that's a hard-ass fucking mask. Both can be true.
Or to make children less afraid during air raids. If you look at Disney films through the ages, like Snow White, The Incredibles, and Frozen, they're often
Why not
said
just get a
to carry
Chick-fil-A
some
notification?
level
What they
of
trying to tell
deliberate
me?
messaging. In a conversation between Theo Von and Robert Greene, the guy who wrote the 48 Laws of Power, Greene said they offer a singular worldview that runs through most Western mainstream media. While modern society came to describe this phenomena as woke, the more important aspect is the consent it manufactures.
They're listening.
And what angered me about Hollywood, people pretending to be these liberal, wonderful people.
Toxic Manosphere, 48. I've heard the 48 Laws of Power, Atomic Habits.
Out there to create art. What bullshit. They wanted power. They loved having the power over people. They would drop the woke stuff tomorrow if they could make more money doing something else. It's just about what's going to bring the bucks in.
Someone upstream decides what the acceptable worldview is, and the media is passed accordingly. The Pentagon did it with military values. The CIA did it with anti-communism. Hollywood does it now with whatever sells. The product always looks like entertainment and not ideology. These are films watched by billions, not just in the West, but worldwide.
Right.
So this is also a matter of the image the world superpowers want to project. Soft power has always mattered enormously to the West. Huge military, invincible super...
They're worth reading, but you need to understand that it's targeted towards insecure teenagers, yeah. Not just Manosphere books, I feel like that should be everything. Even if it's something like... I feel like you should always look at things objectively and... what's that word? Where it's like you're looking at it from not the view of either side, but neutral. Yeah. Neutral. Am I slow? You should always try to educate yourself neutrally and then form, your own opinions instead of, using your bias to agree with takes or, not support them.
The hero's perfect moral values, intelligence agencies that can do anything they please and always win. Now, you might be wondering what happens if someone breaks ranks and goes against the grain. Whether it's possible to subvert the CIA and
they got Infinity War? End War?
Whether it's possible to subvert the CIA and inform the public of the
truth. Oh my god. Yo, Captain America? I'm sure there are so many oh my god, I could imagine what they changed in Captain America. Holy fuck. I could imagine what Captain America itself might be the plan. Like it might not have been a thing until they wanted it. They're like, you know what? It would be great if you made a Captain America. Well, I guess Stan Lee actually made Captain. Never mind.
Well, there has been
maybe they got Stan Lee too, bro.
Someone tried to do exactly that. He was Gary DeVore, a Hollywood screenwriter with major credits on Schwarzenegger's Raw Deal. He was Gary DeVore, a Hollywood screenwriter with major credits on Schwarzenegger's Raw Deal.
Yo, that nigga,
he was Gary DeVore.
Yo, he got a Glock on him. Look at this lens. I know this shit was at least 100 down. I think one thing I really want to get into is cameras, bro. I think the world of cameras and lenses is so interesting.
Hollywood screenwriter with major credits on Schwarzenegger's Raw Deal, Christopher Walken's The Dog of War, and Backroads with Tommy Lee Jones and Sally Field. He was deep into a script idea that even his own wife didn't fully understand until after he was gone.
When I first moved in with Gary, he said to me,
maybe when I get more
don't be alarmed if you get a call from a person from a government agency.
That's scary as shit.
Just take their name
down. If
my
significant other, if you my girlfriend, right? 1 year, 2 years, and you tell me you might get a call from a CIA agent, guess what? I'm blocking her number. Now, we would have to have a conversation. Why are you talking to CIA agents? What does this have to do with me? Am I in danger? And depending on your answers to those questions, will choose whether or not you stay in my life or not. That's just what it is, bro. That's just what
In
it
the
is. Who
first
are you, literally?
4 years, there were 2 calls.
Backwards these are released in
And
theaters
then,
fast. I heard it got leaked.
Not too long before he actually disappeared, there were
Disappeared?
several from the CIA.
Wait, is this the dude who died?
Years, there were 2 calls. And then, not too
Hold on, what did I miss? What did I miss?
He was Gary DeVore, a Hollywood screenwriter with major credits on Schwarzenegger's Raw Deal, Christopher Walken's The Dog of War,
Okay.
and Backroads with Tommy Lee Jones and Sally Field. He was deep into a script idea that even his own wife didn't fully
was creating
understand
a new
until
script.
after he was gone.
When I first moved in with Gary,
Wow.
he said to me, "Don't be alarmed if you get a call from a person before he actually disappeared." There were several from the CIA at Langley.
It was called The Big Steal, set during the US invasion of Panama. A friend of his, Hollywood director John Irvin, had lunch with Gary a few weeks before he disappeared. He could tell that something was off.
He was troubled. Something was bothering him. He wasn't really in the conversation. He was having trouble with the script he was writing. Which he talked about more about not the script, but about a government very, very sensitive, inconvenient truth. He was speaking more as a journalist than he was as a screenwriter. He was talking as an investigator.
A researcher who later investigated the case, called Dr. Matthew Alford, eventually uncovered what Gary had found, and it's really dark.
The dictator of Panama, Manuel Noriega, made secret recordings in wired rooms of senior US officials having sex with underage prostitutes, male and female.
And you were gonna put that in a movie? Let's hear it. Let's listen.
British newspaper commented on this, and the story was then buried. And the guy who wrote it got shot by an anonymous sniper.
Gary planned to put that in a Hollywood film. He was driving home through the desert, and then that was the last anyone heard from him.
And he said, "I'll see you later." I never heard from him again.
It's like Gary DeVore simply vanished into thin air.
There was a massive search, foot patrols, helicopters, a $100,000 reward, but 0 leads and no witnesses. He was missing for 370.
Oh, he got murked. Yeah, he got murked. There's no mystery. This isn't a nigga. The CIA took him out. He was pursuing a story on a U.S. general who was placed in Panama. Is that what it was? About him being a pedophile. He got murked, bro. I don't know what to tell you. The nigga's dead. He got taken off the map, and they didn't think of him ever again.
4 days. But then his Ford Explorer was found beneath 15 feet of muddy water at the bottom of the California aqueduct, despite the aqueduct having been searched extensively. His laptop containing the script was missing, his gun was missing, and his hands were missing.
Wait, why'd they take his hands off?
Hands.
Is it like punishment?
Listen, the man had his
like a message?
removed. Why? Why?
That's the only thing that makes sense.
Mind feel that there is crime here. I do not feel that my husband drove off of this bridge.
Within a week of his disappearance, agents from the FBI, CIA, NSA, and DoD arrived at the family home. After an official went into his office, his computer was wiped. And here's an unlikely connection to Meet the Parents and other films years later. It was Chase Brandon, the CIA's entertainment industry liaison officer, who was among those at the scene. When Alford started digging into the case years later, he received a warning to stop what he was doing and leave well alone.
You know, of course, we've received an informal or semi-formal warning.
Yeah, should I be watching this? Hey, CIA, how y'all doing, man? I'm sure y'all are monitoring and watching. You know, we over here don't really care what y'all do. It's your country. I just live in it, bro. I just live in it, you know? And even if you wanted to, I've done nothing wrong. Try me if you want to.
CIA and DoD contractor.
They're not worried about top drop.
Back off the CIA. You're going too far with this now. These people can and will ruin your life and come knocking on mine and your doors.
A former White House official from
That's
the
actually
Reagan
scary
and George
shit,
Bush
bro.
administration.
Like that's scary as fuck. You're trying to pursue something that you know is wrong. You got taken off the map. Someone else finds that out and wants to pursue that more, and they get a message about stop this or else. That's scary as shit, bro. That's scary as shit.
Confirmed that DeVore harbored a deep.
You're already on the list. I'm a registered communist.
And conceded the case has the hallmarks of a cover-up.
Yo, someone ban
The CIA declined to comment on the entire situation.
Someone get him out of
the
here.
case officially remains open. So that's the other side of the coin. What potentially happens when the CIA's veto isn't obeyed? We don't really know the truth of what happened, but it does show you that you should mess around with topics not sanctioned by the agency. As for the impacts this all has on society, Theo and Joe Rogan were very perceptive about how it can change public perception.
The dude from Barstool.
In World War I, one of the problems that they had was people didn't want to be over there killing people.
Yeah.
And so people were shooting, but they weren't shooting at the actual enemy. And so then they realized, well, we've got to do something about that. And so after that, they started creating all these really patriotic war movies where the guys are heroes, they go over and they shoot all the bad guys, and then they're awesome. So then the next group of people that go to war are all going to be indoctrinated with these films.
John Kiriakou thinks that nowhere has that indoctrination been more effective or more dangerous than in warming the population up to the idea of torture.
One thing that bothers me the most is when
it's him again. This nigga is everywhere. I love it. Bro, your stories are entertaining, bro. I'm not gonna lie. You have a future as a content creator because you tell entertaining ass stories, bro. The way you talk is funny as shit. He's farming. That ass is, bro.
that torture prevented acts of terrorism or disrupted acts of terrorism. And to me, that myth is dangerous in that it affects public opinion. You can put
very
whatever
dangerous
euphemism.
Does it like torture isn't correlated to like success, right? In terms of what you want to get out of the person. Like there's no correlation between if they tell you and how much you torture them. They just do it. They literally just do it.
You can call it enhanced interrogation technique. I don't care what you call it. What we did to some of those people.
How you know this?
Was just illegal.
Kiriakou would know. He's the only CIA officer
No. There's studies.
There's the torture program.
I objected to the CIA's use of so-called enhanced interrogation techniques, which I believe to be torture. And I went public with that information in December of 2007. All this time, by the way, I'm waiting for somebody to come out and say something. And nobody said anything. As a result, I was prosecuted and served 30 months in prison. But I'm glad I did. Somebody had to do it.
This is especially true in the film Zero Dark 30, which is about capturing Osama bin Laden. John Kiriakou thinks it's the strongest example of making the CIA look clean from every angle.
Zero Dark 30. So Zero Dark 30, I think, is the most egregious example of CIA interference in Hollywood.
The CIA gave the filmmakers classified briefings over a classified mock-up of the bin Laden compound. The film essentially pushed that the torture program is what led them to bin Laden. Kiriakou says that's a complete lie.
This was a film that the CIA made a policy decision on that it was going to cooperate fully, to the point where senior CIA officers gave them inappropriately classified briefings over a classified mock-up of the bin Laden compound. Okay, that's chargeable under the Espionage Act. The CIA just turned it over. Why? Because it made the CIA look good.
In real life, intelligence work is edgy, gruesome, and morally ambiguous. Mainstream TV and cinema don't need to be accurate. They just need to feel right and not leave the audience with too many lingering questions or ambiguity. They pick up on this exact point in the podcast.
Even though they are torturing people. Now, entire population is so kind of almost like brainwashed into, but they are good guys, so torture is okay,
right,
as long as good guys are doing it.
Well, that was the narrative.
And they've got so desensitized towards doing bad shit, and if it's the CIA or if it's Tom Cruise or if it's like Mission Impossible and they're doing,
you know what I think has a great depiction of torture? What's that movie with Jake Gyllenhaal where he's looking for his daughter who got kidnapped? But he found a nigga that he thought was the person who kidnapped his daughter. He tortured them. And like, I think it had a great depiction of what it does, like how ineffective it is, but at the same time, what it does to the person. It was a really great movie too, actually.
Bad shit and they're
Shea
torturing
Gilgeous
people.
Alexander.
Like now the message is that's okay, you don't worry about it.
So desensitization and controlling
Why'd you bring up
narrative
his
is
name,
central
man?
to this whole strategy. But there are deeper layers than promoting and suppressing films.
Right.
The CIA's venture capital arm In-Q-Tel, literally named after Q from James Bond, has been funding tech companies since 1999. Google bought an In-Q-Tel-funded mapping startup called Keyhole that became Google Earth. In-Q-Tel and Google then jointly invested in a company that builds predictive analytics by mining web data. Palantir was one of their earliest investments. The CIA had established an entire directorate of digital innovation specifically to engage Silicon Valley. So it's all linked together and practically operates in plain sight. Theo Von told Green a story about bumping into a construction worker at Century City Mall in LA.
Yo, what's up? Oh. So I start talking to him, and he's like, dude, guess what we're building? I'm like, I don't know, you know, I thought maybe it could have been like a Hardee's or something. He's like, we're building like a 20-story building, and 10 floors of it are the CIA, and the other 10 floors are a management company, Hollywood Management.
Theo was mixing up the CIA and CAA, Creative Artists Agency, Hollywood's most powerful talent firm, but Green made it sound like the real thing was even worse.
And you go to that building, and they call it like the Death Star. There are like, you know, politicians who are being represented by CAA, athletes, tech bros, influencers. It's pretty frightening though when you go inside. It's almost like Scientology, Hollywood's version of Scientology.
He's describing high-level ongoing talks at the intersection of the media, government, and big tech, all in a building lovingly called the Death Star. So you can now see how this whole influence campaign is far bigger than cutting lines in Marvel movies. It relies on cross-collaboration between multiple arms of state and private power, and the product hasn't stopped at the cinema. It's been actively following the audience, which means you, wherever you go, including online.
Do you think the CIA have a strategy for podcasters and for podcasting?
I think yes, now they do. It took them a little while to get current, but just like they over time developed a strategy with Hollywood, sure, they're developing a strategy with podcasters.
This strategy is consolidating as we speak, which will only make it easier for agencies like the CIA to wield greater control over the narrative.
For sure.
Larry Ellison, whose company Oracle now hosts TikTok US algorithm and controls its content moderation, just bought Paramount through his son David. And if their bid for Warner Bros. And Discovery goes through, you can add CNN, HBO, Warner Brothers, Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon, MTV, Comedy Central, Discovery, TLC, TBS, and TNT to that list.
Damn!
An internal memo obtained by NPR confirmed the Ellison-led entity will control what's allowed and what's not on the platform. Bernie Sanders called it oligarchy. And Oracle, which sits underneath all of this, has held government contracts with the CIA and the Department of Defense for decades. Whatever you call it, the media pipeline is now shorter than it's ever been, and in fewer hands. There's a through line from Donald Duck selling war bonds to Captain Marvel. Selling Air Force recruitment to Google Earth, tracking your location, has never been broken. The methods have evolved: direct propaganda, covert funding, script consultations, structural incentives, venture capital, and digital surveillance. But the principle itself hasn't changed. Get the message right, make sure it's repeated enough, and eventually nobody questions this anymore. And if you've seen what happens when someone steps outside that system, a screenwriter at the bottom of a canal with no hands, a researcher warned to back off before they ruin his life, maybe then you understand why so few people ever try. It's not a theory about Hollywood, but a description of what 60,000 pages of declassified documents confirm has already happened, and is still happening, to the stories you grew up on. The truth is, we simply don't know how deep this rabbit hole really goes, how much of the information-rich world around us is real, and how much is fake or manipulated just enough to maintain a thin veneer of authenticity. Like we saw in this recent...
I think it's hard to... Yes, I'm talking to a statement about like, if you go against it, you'll end up missing like the other two people that you mentioned in the video. But I truly think it's harder to do it in today's society. I don't know how they would implement that through social, like, you know, the new wave of content creators. Maybe podcasting makes a little bit more sense. Remember there's like this tech company that was bought, or like a tech podcast that was bought by OpenAI, which could lead to, you know what I'm saying? Like there's things like that. But in terms of content creators, it's a lot harder to censor that without overstepping boundaries and making people wary of the government. Like, I feel like that's such a hard line to balance in like modern day social media that it's essentially impossible to do what they were doing with Hollywood to content creators. Don't take that as a challenge and just start sending hitmen after me, okay? I'm saying I don't think it's possible. You don't have to try. I know you're watching, CIA. I know you're watching.
Video we did on the CIA compromising podcasts, the rabbit hole truly goes deep. In any case, the strategies employed by the CIA and the government to influence the media are not theoretical, and they don't spend millions on them for no reason. So ask yourself, when you're next watching your favorite films and TV shows, can you really take them at value? If you think
okay, take Hasanabi as an example. He is the most outspoken person on the platform of Twitch.tv. He lets you know exactly where he stands on most things, and a lot of things go against certain parts of our government. If they were to find a way to silence him, can you imagine a way to silence someone that outspoken who has already put their piece out there? I don't know how you would do it without making it look sketchy to the point where it causes mass riot and, you know what I'm saying, distrust in your government. That's where I think we are. Now, if you were able to catch it before they grow as popular as the Hasanabi, then maybe. How do you find that people are trying to push that out there? And why would you even go against someone that small? Because there's a lot of them. There's not just one. He actually just got a federal subpoena. Oh, okay. Well, at the same time, who is our administration, right? And then you think of that, and then you automatically think, well, they try and do whatever they want. They don't care who sees. So that makes sense. that makes a lot of sense.
Can ask yourself, for how much longer do you think this will be the case?
Hey, I ain't gonna lie. Didn't know about any of this. That is such a great video from Moon. Exposing crime is treated as committing a crime. You are being ruled by criminals. Yeah, that's a good video.